Question 1. Examination of the data shows that the organization is experiencing rapid growth, leading to increased demand for self-service provisioning of virtual machines and application stacks. However, recent security audits have highlighted a pattern of misconfigurations and non-compliance in deployed resources, stemming from inconsistent application of security policies during manual provisioning. The IT department is tasked with designing an automated provisioning solution using VMware vRealize automation, area automation, that can accelerate deployment times while ensuring adherence to security baselines and regulatory requirements. Which implementation approach best addresses these competing needs? Option A. Prioritize rapid deployment by enabling self-service provisioning with minimal initial security and compliance validation, relying on post-deployment audits for remediation. Option B. Design the automation to provision resources first, then trigger separate, asynchronous security and compliance scans to identify and remediate issues. Option C. Implement a policy-driven automation framework that integrates security and compliance checks directly into the provisioning workflow, enforcing predefined baselines and controls at the point of resource creation. Option D. Develop a solution that automates the provisioning process, but requires manual review and approval of all deployed resources by a security team before they become operational. The correct answer is C. Implement a policy-driven automation framework that integrates security and compliance checks directly into the provisioning workflow, enforcing predefined baselines and controls at the point of resource creation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud automation design, balancing the need for rapid deployment and agility with robust security and compliance requirements. The organization is experiencing growth, necessitating faster provisioning of resources, but has a history of security incidents due to inadequate controls. This creates a tension between business needs and risk management, requiring a design that is both efficient and secure, adhering to established VMware best practices and potentially internal governance policies. The challenge lies in selecting an implementation approach that satisfies these competing demands without compromising either. Correct approach analysis. Implementing a policy-driven automation framework that integrates security and compliance checks directly into the provisioning workflow represents best professional practice. This approach leverages VMware vRealize automation, now area automation, capabilities to enforce predefined security baselines, tagging strategies, and access controls at the point of resource creation. By embedding these checks, the design ensures that all deployed resources adhere to organizational standards from the outset, significantly reducing the risk of security misconfigurations and compliance violations. This aligns with the principle of security by design and proactive risk mitigation, which are fundamental to responsible cloud management and automation. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that prioritizes speed of deployment by bypassing initial security and compliance validation introduces significant regulatory and ethical risks. This could lead to the deployment of resources that do not meet industry standards or internal policies, potentially exposing the organization to data breaches, financial penalties, and reputational damage. Ethically, it represents a failure to uphold the duty of care to protect organizational assets and data. Another incorrect approach would be to implement security and compliance checks as a separate, post-provisioning process. While better than no checks, this method is reactive and less effective. Resources could be deployed in a non-compliant state for a period, increasing the attack surface and the likelihood of vulnerabilities being exploited before they are identified and remediated. This approach fails to proactively embed security, which is a core tenet of secure cloud design. Finally, an approach that relies solely on manual review of deployed resources after automation is inefficient and prone to human error. This negates the primary benefits of automation, which include consistency and scalability. It also introduces a significant delay in identifying and rectifying issues, increasing risk and potentially hindering business agility. This approach is not professionally sound as it fails to leverage the capabilities of the automation platform effectively and introduces unnecessary risk. Professional reasoning. Professionals designing cloud management and automation solutions must adopt a risk-based approach. This involves understanding the organization's security posture, compliance obligations, and business objectives. The decision-making process should prioritize solutions that integrate security and compliance into the core automation workflows, rather than treating them as add-ons. This proactive stance ensures that automation enhances, rather than compromises, the organization's security and regulatory standing. When faced with competing demands, the professional must advocate for designs that uphold these critical principles, even if it requires a slightly longer initial implementation phase. Question 2. The investigation demonstrates that a proposed automated patching solution for a multi-cloud environment promises significant time savings for the operations team. However, the team lead is concerned about potential disruption to critical business applications and data integrity during the patching process. Which of the following approaches to evaluating this automation best aligns with professional best practices for cloud management and automation design? Option A. Rely on the vendor's claims of seamless integration and minimal disruption, and proceed with a full-scale deployment without further internal testing. Option B. Prioritize the immediate deployment of the automation to realize cost savings, assuming the existing patching procedures are sufficiently robust to handle any minor issues. Option C. Implement the automation on a single non-critical environment first, without formally documenting the assessment process or engaging other affected teams. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that includes technical validation, security review, operational risk analysis, and stakeholder consultation, followed by a phased rollout with rollback capabilities. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that includes technical validation, security review, operational risk analysis, and stakeholder consultation, followed by a phased rollout with rollback capabilities. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates the critical need for a thorough impact assessment when introducing new automation tools into a cloud management environment. This scenario is professionally challenging because the potential benefits of increased efficiency and reduced manual effort must be weighed against the risks of unintended consequences, such as service disruption, data integrity issues, or security vulnerabilities. A hasty or incomplete assessment can lead to significant operational problems and reputational damage. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic and comprehensive evaluation of the proposed automation's effects across all relevant domains. This includes technical feasibility, operational impact, security implications, and compliance with existing policies and regulatory frameworks. By engaging stakeholders, conducting pilot testing, and documenting findings, this approach ensures that potential risks are identified and mitigated proactively, aligning with the principles of responsible technology adoption and risk management. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the perceived cost savings without a detailed technical and operational review fails to acknowledge the inherent complexities of cloud environments. This oversight represents a regulatory and ethical failure by potentially jeopardizing service availability and data security, which are often subject to compliance requirements and service-level agreements. Another incorrect approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or the experience of a single team member, without formal validation or broader stakeholder consultation, is professionally unacceptable. This approach lacks the rigor required for informed decision-making and can lead to the adoption of solutions that are not robust, scalable, or secure, potentially violating best practices for system design and implementation. A third incorrect approach that bypasses established change management processes in favor of rapid deployment, even with a superficial impact assessment, is a significant regulatory and ethical lapse. This disregard for established procedures increases the likelihood of unforeseen issues and makes it difficult to trace the root cause of any problems that arise, hindering accountability and compliance efforts. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with clearly defining the scope and objectives of the automation. This should be followed by a structured impact assessment that considers technical, operational, security, and compliance aspects. Engaging relevant stakeholders throughout the process, conducting thorough testing, and documenting all findings and decisions are crucial steps. Finally, a robust change management process should govern the deployment and ongoing monitoring of the automation. Question 3. Benchmark analysis indicates that a key vendor for cloud management and automation solutions has offered your firm a significant financial incentive to recommend and integrate their proprietary platform into a client's new cloud infrastructure design. This incentive is contingent upon the successful adoption of their platform by the client. You have evaluated the vendor's platform and believe it offers some compelling features that could benefit the client, but also has limitations and potential long-term cost implications that may not be immediately apparent. How should you proceed to uphold your professional and ethical obligations to the client? Option A. Accept the vendor's incentive and subtly guide the client towards adopting their platform by highlighting only the positive aspects of their solution during design discussions. Option B. Reject the vendor's offer and proceed with designing a solution using alternative, non-proprietary technologies that you believe are more universally beneficial, without informing the client about the vendor's offer. Option C. Accept the vendor's incentive and proceed with designing the solution using their platform, assuming the client will benefit from the advanced features and the cost savings associated with the incentive. Option D. Disclose the vendor's offer to the client. Present a balanced assessment of the vendor's platform, including both benefits and drawbacks, and allow the client to make the final decision on whether to accept the incentive and integrate the platform. The correct answer is D. Disclose the vendor's offer to the client. Present a balanced assessment of the vendor's platform, including both benefits and drawbacks, and allow the client to make the final decision on whether to accept the incentive and integrate the platform. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common ethical dilemma in cloud management and automation design, where a vendor offers incentives that could influence design decisions. The challenge lies in balancing the desire for cost savings and potentially beneficial vendor-specific features against the professional obligation to design solutions that are objectively the best fit for the client's requirements, free from undue influence. Maintaining client trust and ensuring the integrity of the design process are paramount. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes the client's best interests and upholds professional integrity. By disclosing the vendor's offer to the client and allowing them to make an informed decision, the designer demonstrates transparency and ethical conduct. This aligns with professional codes of conduct that emphasize client advocacy and avoiding conflicts of interest. The client, being the ultimate beneficiary, has the right to evaluate the offer and its potential impact on their long-term strategy and budget. This approach ensures that any decision made regarding the vendor's offering is based on objective evaluation and client needs, not on personal gain or undisclosed incentives. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves accepting the vendor's offer and incorporating their proprietary technology without full disclosure to the client. This constitutes a breach of trust and potentially a conflict of interest. The client may not be aware that the design is influenced by an incentive, leading to a solution that might be suboptimal or more expensive in the long run due to vendor lock-in or higher licensing costs. This failure to disclose is a direct violation of ethical principles requiring honesty and transparency in professional dealings. Another incorrect approach is to reject the offer outright without consulting the client or evaluating its potential benefits. While seemingly cautious, this can be detrimental if the vendor's technology genuinely offers significant advantages that align with the client's goals. The designer's role is to present all viable options and their implications, not to unilaterally decide what is best for the client without their input, especially when external factors like vendor incentives are involved. This approach can lead to missed opportunities for the client. A third incorrect approach is to accept the offer and then attempt to subtly steer the client towards it without explicit disclosure. This is a form of deception and undermines the client's autonomy in decision-making. It prioritizes the designer's potential benefit, or the vendor's, over the client's right to an unbiased assessment of their options. This behavior erodes professional credibility and can lead to significant repercussions if discovered. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such situations should follow a structured decision-making process. First, identify the potential conflict of interest or ethical concern. Second, understand the implications of the vendor's offer for the client's project and long-term objectives. Third, consult relevant professional codes of conduct and organizational policies regarding gifts, incentives, and conflicts of interest. Fourth, communicate transparently with the client, disclosing the offer and its potential benefits and drawbacks. Finally, facilitate an informed decision-making process for the client, ensuring their needs and best interests remain the primary focus. Question 4. Analysis of process optimization within a VMware Cloud Foundation environment. specifically focusing on the automation of virtual machine lifecycle management, requires a strategic approach to ensure both efficiency gains and operational integrity. Considering the need for auditable and reliable processes, which of the following strategies best aligns with professional best practices for designing such optimizations? Option A. Conducting a thorough analysis of current VM lifecycle processes, identifying key performance indicators, KPI, and potential bottlenecks, and then designing targeted automation solutions with comprehensive testing and rollback capabilities. Option B. Relying on vendor-provided default automation templates without customization or validation to quickly deploy automated VM management. Option C. Adopting a lift and shift approach to automate existing manual scripts without re-evaluating their underlying logic or efficiency. Option D. Implementing automated workflows that reduce the number of manual steps in VM provisioning and deprovisioning, prioritizing speed of deployment above all else. Correct answer is D. Implementing automated workflows that reduce the number of manual steps in VM provisioning and deprovisioning, prioritizing speed of deployment above all else. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud management and automation design, balancing the drive for efficiency with the need for robust, auditable processes. Professional challenge lies in identifying and implementing process optimizations that yield tangible benefits without introducing undue risk or violating established operational guidelines. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between superficial changes and fundamental improvements that enhance the overall effectiveness and compliance of the cloud environment. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, data-driven methodology for process optimization. By focusing on identifying bottlenecks through performance metrics and user feedback, and then implementing targeted automation solutions that are thoroughly tested and documented, it ensures that changes are beneficial, reliable, and maintainable. This aligns with the principles of good governance and operational excellence, ensuring that automation efforts contribute positively to the organization's objectives and adhere to any relevant internal policies or industry best practices for cloud operations. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reducing the number of steps in a workflow without considering the impact on error handling or audit trails would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to a less resilient system where critical information is lost or the ability to trace actions for compliance or troubleshooting is compromised. Another incorrect approach that involves implementing automation based on anecdotal evidence or without proper validation could introduce unforeseen bugs or inefficiencies, leading to operational disruptions and potential security vulnerabilities. This demonstrates a failure to apply due diligence and a disregard for the potential negative consequences of poorly designed automation. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly define the objectives of the optimization. Second, gather data and metrics to understand the current state and identify areas for improvement. Third, explore potential solutions, considering both manual and automated options, and assess their feasibility, risks, and benefits. Fourth, pilot and test any proposed changes rigorously. Finally, implement, monitor, and iterate based on performance and feedback, ensuring that all changes are well documented and aligned with organizational policies and best practices. Question 5. The performance metrics show an increase in service deployment success rates, but also a concurrent rise in average request latency and resource contention across multiple cloud environments. The automation framework is responsible for provisioning and configuring these services. Which of the following approaches would best address this situation to optimize process efficiency? Option A. Immediately increase the allocated compute and memory resources for all underlying infrastructure components supporting the automation. Option B. Focus solely on optimizing the application code deployed by the automation, assuming the automation framework itself is performing optimally. Option C. Implement a broad set of random configuration changes across various automation scripts and templates. Option D. Analyze the execution logs and resource utilization patterns of the automation workflows to identify bottlenecks in provisioning or configuration steps. The correct answer is D. Analyze the execution logs and resource utilization patterns of the automation workflows to identify bottlenecks in provisioning or configuration steps. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud management and automation, balancing the need for rapid deployment and resource provisioning with the imperative to maintain operational efficiency and cost-effectiveness. The performance metrics indicating increased latency and resource contention, despite a rise in deployed services, suggest a potential bottleneck or inefficient resource allocation within the automated workflows. The professional challenge lies in identifying the root cause of this degradation without disrupting ongoing operations or introducing new risks. Careful judgment is required to select an optimization strategy that addresses the observed issues while adhering to established operational standards and potentially internal governance policies related to change management and performance tuning. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it focuses on a systematic, data-driven investigation of the automated processes themselves. By analyzing the execution logs and resource utilization patterns of the automation workflows, it directly targets the source of potential inefficiencies. This aligns with principles of IT service management and operational excellence, aiming to improve the underlying automation logic and resource orchestration rather than simply reacting to symptoms. This proactive and analytical method minimizes disruption and ensures that optimizations are based on concrete evidence, leading to sustainable performance improvements and cost savings. It also implicitly supports adherence to any internal policies requiring documented root cause analysis for performance issues. An incorrect approach that involves simply scaling up all underlying infrastructure resources without understanding the cause of the performance degradation is professionally unacceptable. This is because it represents a brute force solution that fails to address the root problem, leading to unnecessary expenditure and potentially masking underlying inefficiencies. Ethically, it could be seen as a failure to exercise due diligence in resource management, potentially violating principles of responsible IT stewardship and cost optimization. Furthermore, it bypasses the opportunity to refine and improve the automation itself, which is a core competency in cloud management and automation design. Another incorrect approach, such as randomly reconfiguring automation scripts without a clear hypothesis or testing plan, introduces significant risk. This is a direct violation of sound change management principles and could lead to unintended consequences, including service outages or security vulnerabilities. Professionally, it demonstrates a lack of systematic problem-solving and a disregard for the stability of the production environment. This approach fails to adhere to best practices for controlled and validated changes, which are essential for maintaining a reliable and secure cloud infrastructure. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Observe and document performance metrics. 2. Formulate hypotheses about the root cause, considering both infrastructure and automation layers. 3. Prioritize hypotheses based on likelihood and potential impact. 4. Design and execute targeted investigations, e.g., log analysis, profiling to validate or refute hypotheses. 5. Develop and test potential solutions in a non-production environment. 6. Implement validated solutions with appropriate change control and rollback plans. 7. Monitor post-implementation performance to confirm resolution and identify any new issues. Question 6. The evaluation methodology shows a need to optimize cloud management and automation processes. Which approach best aligns with professional best practices for achieving sustainable improvements in efficiency and reliability? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of current workflows, establish baseline performance metrics, define measurable improvement objectives, and pilot changes iteratively with stakeholder feedback. Option B. Adopt new automation solutions based on peer recommendations without a detailed assessment of their suitability for the existing environment. Option C. Implement the most advanced automation tools available, prioritizing rapid deployment to realize immediate efficiency gains. Option D. Focus on reducing the number of manual steps in all processes, regardless of the complexity or potential impact on system stability. The correct answer is C. Implement the most advanced automation tools available, prioritizing rapid deployment to realize immediate efficiency gains. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud management and automation design, balancing the drive for efficiency with the need for robust, auditable processes. The professional challenge lies in identifying and implementing process optimizations that demonstrably improve performance and reduce operational overhead, without introducing new risks or violating established operational standards. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between superficial changes and genuine improvements that align with the organization's strategic goals and risk appetite. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it focuses on a systematic, data-driven evaluation of existing processes. By establishing clear baseline metrics and defining measurable objectives for improvement, it ensures that any proposed optimizations are validated against tangible outcomes. This aligns with principles of continuous improvement and operational excellence, which are implicitly expected in professional IT service delivery. Furthermore, a structured approach allows for clear documentation and justification of changes, which is crucial for auditability and compliance, even without specific regulatory mandates being explicitly stated in the exam scope. The emphasis on stakeholder buy-in and phased implementation mitigates disruption and ensures that changes are adopted effectively. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on adopting the latest automation tools without a thorough understanding of current workflows or their impact on existing systems is professionally unacceptable. This can lead to unintended consequences, increased complexity, and potential system instability, all of which undermine operational integrity. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of implementation over thorough testing and validation introduces significant risk. This failure to adequately assess the impact of changes can result in service degradation or outages, violating the implicit professional duty to maintain reliable services. A third incorrect approach that bypasses established change management procedures, even for seemingly minor optimizations, demonstrates a disregard for governance and control frameworks. This can lead to a lack of accountability and make it difficult to trace the root cause of future issues, creating an environment prone to errors and security vulnerabilities. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the current state, identifying pain points and opportunities for improvement through data analysis and stakeholder feedback. This should be followed by the design of potential solutions, prioritizing those that offer clear benefits and are aligned with organizational objectives. Rigorous testing, phased implementation, and continuous monitoring are essential to ensure successful adoption and to capture further optimization opportunities. This iterative process, grounded in evidence and controlled execution, forms the basis of sound professional judgment in process optimization. Question 7. Research into optimizing the deployment and management workflows for a multi-cloud environment has revealed significant delays and inconsistencies. The team is under pressure to accelerate service delivery. Which approach to process optimization would best align with professional best practices for ensuring both efficiency and operational integrity? Option A. Implement automated scripting for all current manual tasks without a preceding analysis of the existing processes to identify inefficiencies. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of current workflows using performance metrics, user feedback, and dependency mapping to identify key bottlenecks and areas for improvement before implementing any changes. Option C. Prioritize the automation of tasks based on the loudest requests from individual development teams, assuming their needs represent the most critical areas for improvement. Option D. Focus on rapidly deploying new automation tools and techniques, deferring any formal process review or validation until after the initial implementation phase. The correct answer is A. Implement automated scripting for all current manual tasks without a preceding analysis of the existing processes to identify inefficiencies. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid cloud adoption and the need for robust, compliant, and efficient operational processes. The pressure to deliver new services quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise long-term stability and adherence to established governance frameworks. Careful judgment is required to balance agility with control, ensuring that process optimization efforts do not inadvertently introduce risks or violate regulatory mandates. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, data-driven methodology for process optimization. By focusing on identifying bottlenecks through performance metrics and user feedback, it ensures that improvements are targeted at areas with the most significant impact. This aligns with the principles of continuous improvement and operational excellence, which are implicitly encouraged by frameworks governing IT service management and cloud operations. Such an approach fosters transparency, accountability, and a proactive stance towards risk management, all of which are critical for maintaining a secure and compliant cloud environment. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on automating existing, potentially inefficient workflows without prior analysis fails to address the root causes of operational issues. This can lead to the perpetuation of suboptimal processes, increased technical debt, and a false sense of progress. Ethically, this could be seen as a failure to exercise due diligence in managing IT resources and delivering value. Another incorrect approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or the opinions of a few vocal stakeholders for process changes lacks the rigor necessary for effective optimization. This can result in changes that are not universally beneficial, may introduce new problems, or overlook critical dependencies. Professionally, this demonstrates a lack of objective analysis and can lead to wasted resources and decreased overall efficiency. A further incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of implementation over thorough testing and validation risks introducing instability and security vulnerabilities into the cloud environment. This can have significant regulatory implications if it leads to data breaches or service disruptions that violate compliance requirements. It also undermines the trust placed in the IT operations team. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Define the problem and desired outcomes clearly. 2. Gather objective data and metrics to understand current performance. 3. Involve relevant stakeholders to gain diverse perspectives and identify pain points. 4. Analyze the data to pinpoint root causes and potential areas for improvement. 5. Develop and prioritize optimization strategies based on impact and feasibility. 6. Implement changes incrementally with thorough testing and validation. 7. Monitor the impact of changes and iterate as necessary. 8. Ensure all changes align with organizational policies and regulatory requirements. Question 8. Process analysis reveals that the current automated provisioning workflow for virtual machines within the VMware Cloud Foundation environment is experiencing significant delays, impacting developer productivity. The goal is to streamline this process to improve deployment times. Which of the following approaches represents the most professionally sound and effective strategy for achieving this optimization? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of the existing workflow, gathering performance metrics, identifying specific points of latency, and then implementing targeted, incremental changes with thorough testing and rollback capabilities. Option B. Focus solely on reducing the number of approval gates in the workflow to expedite deployments, disregarding potential security or compliance implications. Option C. Implement a complete overhaul of the entire provisioning infrastructure, replacing key components with newer versions without prior impact assessment or phased rollout. Option D. Immediately reconfigure the vRealize automation, VRA blueprints to include additional automation steps, assuming this will inherently speed up the process. The correct answer is A. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of the existing workflow, gathering performance metrics, identifying specific points of latency, and then implementing targeted, incremental changes with thorough testing and rollback capabilities. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud management and automation design, optimizing existing processes without disrupting critical operations or introducing new risks. The challenge lies in balancing the desire for efficiency gains with the need for stability, security, and compliance within the VMware Cloud Foundation environment. A hasty or poorly planned optimization can lead to unintended consequences, impacting service availability, data integrity, and adherence to internal policies or external regulations. The professional must demonstrate a thorough understanding of the VMware ecosystem, automation principles, and risk management. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach focuses on a phased, data-driven, and risk-aware methodology. It prioritizes understanding the current state, identifying bottlenecks through objective metrics, and implementing changes incrementally with robust testing and validation. This aligns with best practices in IT service management and change control, ensuring that optimizations are effective, sustainable, and do not compromise the integrity or security of the cloud environment. This approach minimizes disruption, allows for continuous improvement, and provides auditable evidence of due diligence, which is crucial for demonstrating compliance with internal governance and potentially external audit requirements. Incorrect approach is analysis. An approach that bypasses thorough analysis and directly implements changes based on anecdotal evidence or a single perceived bottleneck is professionally unsound. It risks introducing new issues, overlooking other critical areas for improvement, and failing to achieve the desired outcome. This could lead to regulatory or ethical failures if the changes inadvertently violate data privacy policies, security standards, or service-level agreements, potentially resulting in non-compliance and reputational damage. Implementing changes without proper testing or rollback plans is a significant risk. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for operational stability. If these untested changes cause outages or data corruption, it constitutes a failure to uphold professional responsibility for maintaining a reliable and secure environment. This could have direct regulatory implications if service disruptions impact regulated operations or data breaches occur due to poorly implemented automation. Focusing solely on cost reduction without considering operational impact or security implications is a narrow and potentially damaging approach. While cost efficiency is important, it should not come at the expense of service availability, performance, or security. Such a myopic focus can lead to decisions that compromise the overall health and compliance of the cloud environment, creating long-term risks that outweigh short-term savings. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, iterative approach to process optimization. This involves 1. Discovery and assessment, thoroughly understanding the current process, its inputs, outputs, and performance metrics. 2. Bottleneck identification, using data and analysis to pinpoint specific areas for improvement. 3. Solution design, developing targeted solutions that address identified bottlenecks. 4. Phased implementation and testing, rolling out changes incrementally with rigorous testing and validation in non-production environments. 5. Monitoring and iteration, continuously monitoring performance post-implementation and making further adjustments as needed. This systematic process ensures that optimizations are effective, minimize risk, and maintain compliance. Question 9. Process analysis reveals that the deployment of new virtual machines and application services within the enterprise cloud environment is consistently delayed due to a lengthy and manual change approval process involving multiple stakeholders. This bottleneck is impacting development velocity and increasing operational costs associated with extended project timelines. The current process lacks clear audit trails for approvals and relies heavily on email-based communication for status updates. Which of the following approaches is the most effective for optimizing this deployment process while maintaining security and compliance? Option A. Implement a fully automated, policy-driven approval workflow integrated with the cloud management platform, where predefined conditions trigger automatic approvals or escalations, and all approvals are digitally logged with timestamps. Option B. Transition to a system where approvals are managed through informal team discussions and documented in shared spreadsheets, relying on individual team leads to track progress. Option C. Introduce a fast-track option that bypasses the standard approval process for all changes deemed low risk by the requesting team, with only a post-deployment notification required. Option D. Increase the number of required approvers in the existing manual workflow to ensure more thorough review, even if it further extends the approval cycle. Correct answer is A. Implement a fully automated, policy-driven approval workflow integrated with the cloud management platform, where predefined conditions trigger automatic approvals or escalations, and all approvals are digitally logged with timestamps. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud automation design, balancing the need for rapid deployment and agility with the imperative of maintaining robust security and compliance. The professional challenge lies in identifying the most effective process optimization strategy that aligns with the VMware Certified Advanced Professional 7 Cloud Management and Automation Design. Exams focus on designing scalable, secure, and efficient cloud solutions. The chosen approach must not only improve operational efficiency, but also adhere to the principles of least privilege and auditability, which are fundamental to secure cloud environments. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly addresses the root cause of process inefficiency by standardizing and automating the approval workflow. This not only speeds up deployment, but also embeds compliance checks and audit trails directly into the process, reducing the risk of manual errors and unauthorized changes. This aligns with the exam's emphasis on designing automated workflows that are both efficient and secure, ensuring that changes are traceable and adhere to defined policies. Incorrect approaches fail to meet professional standards for several reasons. One approach, focusing solely on increasing the number of reviewers without addressing the workflow's inherent bottlenecks, exacerbates communication overhead and delays without improving the quality of review or security. This is professionally unacceptable as it fails to optimize the process and can lead to frustration and reduced productivity. Another incorrect approach, bypassing the approval process for certain types of changes, introduces significant security risks and undermines auditability. This violates the principle of least privilege and creates potential compliance gaps, making it impossible to track and verify changes, which is a critical failure in a regulated environment. A third incorrect approach, relying on ad hoc communication and manual tracking, is inherently inefficient and prone to errors. It lacks the structure and automation necessary for a professional cloud management and automation design, leading to inconsistencies and a lack of accountability. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes understanding the current process, identifying specific pain points and bottlenecks, and then evaluating potential solutions against objectives for efficiency, security, and compliance. This involves mapping the existing workflow, gathering feedback from stakeholders, and then designing and implementing solutions that are scalable, automated, and auditable, ensuring alignment with best practices and any relevant regulatory requirements. Question 10. Which approach would be most effective in designing a cloud management and automation solution that prioritizes long-term operational efficiency and scalability while meeting initial deployment timelines? Option A. Focus exclusively on rapid deployment of automation for current needs, deferring any process optimization efforts to a future, unspecified project. Option B. Design automation with built-in feedback mechanisms and performance metrics, enabling continuous refinement and optimization of processes post-deployment. Option C. Automate only the most critical and time-consuming manual tasks, without considering the broader impact on process efficiency or scalability. Option D. Implement automation that directly mirrors existing manual workflows, with a plan to revisit and optimize processes in a subsequent phase. Correct answer is D. Implement automation that directly mirrors existing manual workflows, with a plan to revisit and optimize processes in a subsequent phase. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud management and automation design, balancing the immediate need for rapid deployment with the long-term imperative of process optimization. The pressure to deliver new services quickly can lead to shortcuts that, while seemingly efficient in the short term, create technical debt and operational inefficiencies. A professionally sound approach requires foresight and a commitment to sustainable automation practices, rather than solely focusing on immediate throughput. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it integrates process optimization directly into the automation design lifecycle. By establishing clear metrics for automation performance and actively seeking feedback loops for continuous improvement, it ensures that automation solutions evolve to become more efficient, reliable, and cost-effective over time. This aligns with the principles of agile development and DevOps, which emphasize iterative improvement and learning. Furthermore, in a regulated environment, demonstrating a commitment to optimizing processes through automation can contribute to compliance by reducing the likelihood of human error and increasing the auditability of operations. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over optimization fails to address the underlying inefficiencies that automation is meant to solve. This can lead to a proliferation of brittle, hard-to-maintain automation scripts that require constant manual intervention, negating the intended benefits. Ethically, this approach can be seen as a failure to deliver the full value of automation to the organization, potentially leading to wasted resources and missed opportunities for innovation. Another incorrect approach that focuses solely on automating existing manual processes without re-engineering them is also professionally deficient. While it might offer some immediate relief, it perpetuates the flaws of the original manual process. This can result in automating inefficient or error-prone workflows, leading to the same problems but at a faster pace. This represents a missed opportunity for true process improvement and can be considered a failure to apply best practices in automation design. Finally, an approach that delays optimization until a later, undefined phase is professionally risky. This deferral often leads to optimization being deprioritized or forgotten entirely, especially when new urgent demands arise. This can result in a system that is difficult to manage, scale, and secure, ultimately hindering the organization's ability to adapt and innovate. The professional decision-making process for such situations should involve a thorough assessment of current processes, a clear definition of optimization goals, and the integration of optimization strategies into the initial design and ongoing management of automation solutions. This requires a proactive mindset, a willingness to challenge existing workflows, and a commitment to continuous learning and adaptation. Question 11. The review process indicates that the design for new cloud management and automation platform has received conflicting feedback. The executive sponsor emphasizes the need for rapid deployment of new services to meet market demands, while the infrastructure operations team expresses concerns about the complexity and potential impact on existing stability and security protocols. Which approach best addresses these divergent stakeholder perspectives to ensure a successful design outcome? Option A. Focus on the infrastructure operations team's concerns regarding complexity and security, deferring the rapid deployment requirements until operational stability is fully assured. Option B. Proceed with a design based on the executive sponsor's vision, documenting the infrastructure team's concerns as potential future enhancements without immediate design integration. Option C. Facilitate a joint workshop with the executive sponsor and infrastructure operations team to collaboratively define design priorities, identify trade-offs, and establish clear success criteria that balance business agility with operational stability and security. Option D. Prioritize the executive sponsor's directive for rapid service deployment, assuming the infrastructure team will adapt to the new platform's operational requirements once implemented. The correct answer is C. Facilitate a joint workshop with the executive sponsor and infrastructure operations team to collaboratively define design priorities, identify trade-offs, and establish clear success criteria that balance business agility with operational stability and security. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in managing stakeholder expectations and ensuring alignment on the design of a cloud management and automation solution. The core difficulty lies in balancing the immediate operational needs of the infrastructure team with the strategic long-term goals of the business, as articulated by the executive sponsor. A failure to adequately address both perspectives can lead to a solution that is technically sound, but fails to deliver business value, or is met with resistance from key operational personnel. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive understanding of all stakeholder requirements and concerns before finalizing the design. This involves actively engaging with both the infrastructure team and the executive sponsor to identify potential conflicts, areas of overlap, and critical success factors from each perspective. By facilitating a collaborative discussion and seeking consensus on design principles and priorities, the solution is more likely to be adopted, effective, and aligned with both operational realities and business objectives. This aligns with ethical principles of transparency, fairness, and due diligence in professional design practices. An incorrect approach that solely focuses on the executive sponsor's vision, without deeply understanding the operational implications for the infrastructure team, risks creating a solution that is unmanageable or unsustainable in practice. This could lead to significant rework, increased operational costs, and a breakdown in trust between IT and business units. This represents a failure in professional responsibility to consider the full impact of the design. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes the infrastructure team's immediate technical preferences without considering the broader business strategy, as defined by the executive sponsor, risks delivering a solution that is technically feasible but does not contribute to the organization's strategic goals. This can result in wasted resources and a perception that it is not a strategic partner. This is a failure to uphold professional duty to align technical solutions with business outcomes. A further incorrect approach that attempts to implement a solution based on assumptions about stakeholder needs without direct engagement is a significant professional failing. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and can lead to designs that are fundamentally misaligned with actual requirements, resulting in costly errors and project failure. This violates ethical obligations to be thorough and accurate in professional assessments. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured stakeholder analysis, followed by iterative engagement to gather requirements, identify constraints, and validate design decisions. Prioritizing open communication, active listening, and a commitment to finding solutions that address the most critical needs of all relevant parties is paramount. This ensures that the final design is not only technically robust, but also strategically aligned and operationally viable. Question 12. The analysis reveals that a key business unit requires the rapid deployment of a new microservices-based application to meet aggressive market demands. The proposed automation strategy involves leveraging infrastructure as code (ISC) and CI/CD pipelines. However, security and compliance teams have raised concerns about potential gaps in automated security testing and the lack of pre-approved compliance configurations within the initial automation templates. The development team is pushing for immediate implementation to meet the launch deadline, while operations is concerned about the potential for unmanaged drift and security vulnerabilities in the production environment. Which approach best balances these competing stakeholder needs and ensures a secure and compliant cloud automation design? Option A. Prioritize the immediate deployment of the full application stack using ISC and CI/CD, with a commitment to retroactively address security and compliance requirements in subsequent iterations once the application is live and generating revenue. Option B. Empower the development team to implement their preferred automation tools and practices, with the understanding that the security and compliance teams will conduct manual audits post-deployment to identify and remediate any issues. Option C. Implement a phased automation rollout, starting with the core application infrastructure and CI/CD pipeline for non-sensitive components. Concurrently, develop and integrate automated security scans and compliance checks for these initial deployments, and establish a clear roadmap for extending these controls to more critical components and sensitive data handling as the automation matures. Option D. Delay the application launch until a comprehensive, fully automated security and compliance framework is designed, documented, and tested for all potential use cases, even if this significantly misses the market window. Correct answer is C. Implement a phased automation rollout, starting with the core application infrastructure and CI/CD pipeline for non-sensitive components. Concurrently, develop and integrate automated security scans and compliance checks for these initial deployments, and establish a clear roadmap for extending these controls to more critical components and sensitive data handling as the automation matures. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud automation design, balancing the immediate need for rapid deployment with the long-term implications of technical debt and security vulnerabilities. The professional challenge lies in navigating competing stakeholder priorities: development teams eager for speed versus operations and security teams focused on stability and compliance. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the chosen automation strategy not only meets current business objectives, but also adheres to established best practices and regulatory requirements for secure and auditable cloud operations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a phased implementation of automation, starting with well-defined, low-risk use cases. This allows for iterative refinement of automation workflows, robust testing, and the establishment of clear governance and security controls before scaling to more complex or critical systems. This aligns with the principle of security by design and compliance by design, ensuring that automation is built with inherent controls rather than being an afterthought. It also fosters collaboration and buy-in from all stakeholders by demonstrating value incrementally and addressing concerns proactively. This approach minimizes the risk of introducing systemic vulnerabilities or operational instability, which could have significant financial and reputational consequences. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on rapid deployment without adequate security and governance controls introduces significant regulatory and ethical risks. For instance, bypassing security reviews or compliance checks during the initial automation rollout could lead to violations of data protection regulations, e.g., GDPR, if applicable to the jurisdiction, though not specified here. The principle of data privacy is universal in professional ethics or industry-specific compliance standards. This failure to embed security and compliance from the outset constitutes a breach of professional duty to protect the organization's assets and data. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes extensive upfront design and documentation without any initial automation implementation risks delaying critical business initiatives and failing to deliver tangible value. This can lead to stakeholder frustration and a perception that the automation project is not responsive to business needs. Ethically, this can be seen as a failure to act with due diligence and to deliver on project objectives in a timely manner. Furthermore, an overemphasis on theoretical design without practical validation can result in automation solutions that are not fit for purpose, leading to rework and wasted resources. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a structured stakeholder engagement to clearly define objectives, risks, and constraints. A risk-based approach to automation implementation is crucial, prioritizing automation of critical functions and sensitive data handling with the highest levels of scrutiny. Establishing clear metrics for success, including security and compliance benchmarks, is essential. Continuous monitoring, auditing, and feedback loops are vital to ensure that automation remains aligned with evolving business needs and regulatory landscapes. Professionals should advocate for a balanced approach that integrates speed, security, and compliance, fostering a culture of responsible innovation in cloud automation. Question 13. System analysis indicates that a critical business process relies on a legacy application that lacks comprehensive API documentation and vendor support. The business unit is requesting immediate automation of this process to improve efficiency. Which design approach best balances the need for automation with the inherent risks of integrating a poorly understood legacy system into a cloud management and automation platform? Option A. Immediately proceed with automating the legacy application's user interface through scripting, assuming the business unit's perceived efficiency gains outweigh potential stability issues. Option B. Propose a complete re-architecture and modernization of the legacy application before any automation efforts are initiated to ensure a fully cloud-native solution. Option C. Automate the process based on the business unit's initial request without extensive consultation with IT operations, security, or compliance teams to expedite delivery. Option D. Develop a comprehensive integration blueprint by reverse engineering the legacy application's data flows and interaction points, followed by a phased automation implementation with rigorous testing and rollback procedures. Correct answer is D. Develop a comprehensive integration blueprint by reverse engineering the legacy application's data flows and interaction points, followed by a phased automation implementation with rigorous testing and rollback procedures. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud automation design, where a critical business process relies on a legacy application that is not natively cloud-aware. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for automation and agility with the inherent risks and complexities of integrating a non-standard component into a modern cloud environment. Stakeholders, particularly the business unit, will prioritize speed and perceived cost savings, while IT operations and security will focus on stability, compliance, and long-term maintainability. The absence of clear documentation and vendor support for the legacy application further exacerbates the risk, demanding a design that is robust, resilient, and auditable. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach emphasizes a phased, risk-mitigated strategy that prioritizes understanding and isolating the legacy application's dependencies and integration points. This involves thorough discovery, creating a detailed integration blueprint, and developing a robust testing and rollback plan. This aligns with best practices in IT service management and cloud adoption frameworks, which advocate for a structured approach to change management and risk assessment. From a regulatory perspective, this methodical approach ensures that any automation implemented can be audited, that potential security vulnerabilities introduced by the integration are identified and addressed, and that business continuity is maintained. It demonstrates due diligence in understanding the impact of the proposed automation on existing systems and compliance requirements. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves directly attempting to automate the legacy application's user interface without understanding its underlying APIs or data structures. This is a brittle solution prone to failure with any minor change to the application or its environment. Ethically, it represents a failure to adequately assess risk and a disregard for long-term system stability, potentially leading to business disruption and reputational damage. From a compliance standpoint, it bypasses proper integration channels, making auditing and security validation difficult. Another incorrect approach is to propose a complete re-architecture of the legacy application before any automation is considered. While this might be a long-term goal, it deviates from the immediate requirement of automating the existing process and introduces significant project scope, cost, and timeline risks. This approach fails to address the stakeholders' immediate need for automation and can be seen as an unnecessary delay, potentially leading to frustration and a loss of confidence in the IT department's ability to deliver value. It also risks over-engineering a solution that might not be required if a simpler automation strategy could suffice. A third incorrect approach is to proceed with automation based solely on the business unit's perceived requirements without engaging IT operations, security, or compliance teams. This creates a significant risk of introducing security vulnerabilities, operational instability, or non-compliance with existing regulations. It is a failure of collaboration and due diligence, potentially leading to costly remediation efforts and regulatory penalties. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a structured, risk-based approach to cloud automation design. This involves a comprehensive discovery phase to understand existing systems and their dependencies, followed by a detailed design that considers integration patterns, security implications, operational impact, and compliance requirements. Stakeholder engagement is crucial throughout the process, ensuring that all concerns are addressed and that the proposed solution aligns with business objectives and organizational policies. A phased implementation with robust testing and rollback capabilities is essential to mitigate risks and ensure successful adoption. Question 14. Cost-benefit analysis shows that a new, open-source automation tool offers significant upfront cost savings for deploying virtual machines compared to the existing commercial solution. However, this tool has a less mature security auditing framework and requires custom integration for compliance reporting, which was not factored into the initial cost-benefit calculation. The project sponsor is pushing for immediate adoption due to the projected savings. What is the most professionally responsible approach to proceed? Option A. Delegate the responsibility for ensuring compliance and security to the operations team, allowing them to implement the open-source tool as they see fit to meet the cost-saving targets. Option B. Proceed with immediate adoption of the open-source tool to realize the projected cost savings and address compliance and security gaps as they arise through ad hoc fixes. Option C. Reject the open-source tool outright and continue with the more expensive commercial solution, citing the unquantified risks and integration complexities. Option D. Recommend a phased adoption, starting with non-critical workloads, while simultaneously developing and validating the necessary custom compliance reporting integrations and enhancing the security auditing capabilities. Correct answer is D. Recommend a phased adoption, starting with non-critical workloads, while simultaneously developing and validating the necessary custom compliance reporting integrations and enhancing the security auditing capabilities. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud management and automation design, balancing the immediate cost savings of a proposed solution against its long-term operational risks and compliance implications. The challenge lies in the inherent tension between the desire for rapid deployment and cost reduction, and the need for robust security, auditability, and adherence to evolving regulatory standards. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the chosen automation strategy not only meets initial financial objectives, but also establishes a sustainable and compliant operational posture. Correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive risk assessment and a phased implementation that incorporates continuous monitoring and validation against established compliance frameworks. This aligns with the principles of responsible cloud adoption, emphasizing security by design and operational resilience. By engaging stakeholders early and often, and by building in mechanisms for ongoing governance and adaptation, the organization mitigates potential future liabilities and ensures that the automation solution remains aligned with business objectives and regulatory expectations. This proactive stance is crucial for maintaining trust and avoiding costly remediation efforts down the line. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the lowest upfront cost, without considering the security implications of the chosen automation tools or platforms, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This could lead to vulnerabilities that expose sensitive data, violating data protection regulations. Another incorrect approach that bypasses established change management and validation processes, even if it accelerates deployment, creates an environment ripe for operational errors and security breaches. This disregard for governance and control mechanisms can result in noncompliance with audit requirements and a lack of accountability, which are critical ethical and regulatory concerns. Furthermore, an approach that fails to document the automation logic or its security configurations makes it impossible to demonstrate compliance during audits, leading to potential penalties. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of business requirements and regulatory obligations. This should be followed by a detailed assessment of potential automation solutions, evaluating not only their functional capabilities and cost but also their security posture, compliance certifications, and vendor support. A phased implementation strategy, coupled with robust testing, validation, and ongoing monitoring, is essential. Continuous engagement with all relevant stakeholders, including legal, compliance, and security teams, ensures that all perspectives are considered and that the chosen solution aligns with the organization's risk appetite and strategic goals. Question 15. The audit findings indicate that a recently deployed vRealize automation workflow, intended to automate virtual machine provisioning, has been inadvertently configured to log sensitive customer data to an insecure, publicly accessible log aggregation service. This misconfiguration poses a significant risk of data exposure and potential violation of data privacy regulations. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action to address this critical compliance and security finding? Option A. Immediately reconfigure the vRealize automation workflow to log to a different, more secure internal logging system, without first investigating the extent of the current data exposure or the root cause of the misconfiguration. Option B. Immediately disable the vRealize automation workflow, isolate the affected log aggregation service, and initiate a full incident response protocol to investigate the root cause, assess the extent of data exposure, and implement a permanent remediation plan in consultation with legal and compliance teams. Option C. Temporarily disable the vRealize automation workflow to stop further data logging and await further instructions from management before proceeding with any investigation or remediation steps. Option D. Proceed with the automation of new virtual machine provisioning using the existing workflow, while simultaneously attempting to secure the publicly accessible log aggregation service, prioritizing operational continuity over immediate data protection. The correct answer is B. Immediately disable the vRealize automation workflow, isolate the affected log aggregation service, and initiate a full incident response protocol to investigate the root cause, assess the extent of data exposure, and implement a permanent remediation plan in consultation with legal and compliance teams. Explanation. This scenario presents an ethical dilemma concerning data privacy and compliance within a cloud management and automation context, specifically related to the 3V0-732 exam's focus on design principles. The audit findings highlight a potential breach of data privacy regulations due to the misconfiguration of an automation workflow. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need to rectify the issue, maintain operational continuity, and adhere to strict data protection laws. A rushed or incomplete remediation could lead to further compliance violations or data exposure, while a delayed response could also have negative consequences. The correct approach involves a thorough, documented, and compliant remediation process. This means immediately isolating the affected systems, conducting a root cause analysis to understand the misconfiguration, and implementing a fix that not only resolves the immediate issue, but also prevents recurrence. Crucially, this process must be undertaken with full awareness of and adherence to relevant data privacy regulations, ensuring that any data accessed or processed during the remediation is handled according to legal requirements. Transparency with relevant stakeholders, including management and potentially legal/compliance teams, is also paramount. This approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes data protection, regulatory compliance, and responsible system management. It demonstrates a commitment to ethical conduct and minimizes legal and reputational risks. An incorrect approach would be to simply disable the automation workflow without understanding the root cause. This might temporarily stop the data exposure, but fails to address the underlying vulnerability, leaving the system susceptible to future issues and potentially violating the principle of due diligence in system management. Another incorrect approach would be to attempt a quick fix without proper documentation or validation, which could inadvertently introduce new vulnerabilities or fail to fully resolve the compliance issue. This demonstrates a lack of rigor and a disregard for established IT governance and compliance frameworks. A third incorrect approach would be to ignore the audit findings or downplay their significance, which is a direct violation of professional responsibility and could lead to severe regulatory penalties and a loss of trust. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with understanding the full scope of the problem and its potential impact. This involves consulting relevant documentation, regulatory guidelines, and seeking advice from legal and compliance experts when necessary. Prioritizing actions based on risk and compliance requirements is essential. The process should always include thorough testing and validation of any implemented solutions before returning systems to full operation. Documentation at every step is critical for accountability and future reference. Question 16. Strategic planning requires a balanced approach to cloud management and automation design, especially when faced with competing stakeholder demands for immediate results versus the need for robust, scalable solutions. Considering the VMware Certified Advanced Professional 7 Cloud Management and Automation Design exam objectives, which of the following approaches best navigates this challenge while adhering to best practices for enterprise cloud adoption? Option A. Postpone all automation initiatives until a comprehensive, enterprise-wide automation strategy and platform can be fully designed and implemented, ensuring perfection from the outset. Option B. Immediately commence the automation of the most complex and business-critical process identified by the most senior executive, prioritizing speed over thorough design and testing. Option C. Focus solely on automating the process requested by the most vocal department, regardless of its technical complexity or alignment with the broader organizational cloud strategy. Option D. Initiate a pilot project for a well-defined, high-impact automation use case that is technically feasible within a reasonable timeframe, allowing for iterative feedback and learning before scaling to more complex processes. The correct answer is D. Initiate a pilot project for a well-defined, high-impact automation use case that is technically feasible within a reasonable timeframe, allowing for iterative feedback and learning before scaling to more complex processes. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in cloud management and automation design, where the technical feasibility of a proposed solution clashes with the immediate business priorities and perceived urgency of stakeholders. The challenge lies in balancing innovation and long-term strategic goals with the need to deliver tangible, short-term value, all while navigating potential resistance to change and differing interpretations of risk. The pressure to demonstrate quick wins can lead to overlooking critical design principles that ensure scalability, security, and maintainability, ultimately jeopardizing the overall success of the cloud initiative. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a phased implementation that aligns technical capabilities with business value delivery. This involves identifying a pilot project that is technically achievable, demonstrably valuable to a specific business unit, and serves as a learning opportunity for the broader team. This approach aligns with best practices in agile development and change management, allowing for iterative feedback, risk mitigation, and the gradual buildup of confidence and expertise. By focusing on a tangible, achievable outcome, it addresses the immediate stakeholder need for visible progress while laying a solid foundation for future, more complex automation initiatives. This demonstrates a mature understanding of the VMware cloud management and automation framework, emphasizing a pragmatic and value-driven adoption strategy. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately attempting to automate the most complex and business-critical process without adequate preparation or a phased rollout. This approach risks significant disruption, potential data loss, and a failure to meet stakeholder expectations due to unforeseen technical hurdles or integration complexities. Ethically, it fails to uphold the responsibility to deliver reliable and secure solutions, potentially damaging the reputation of the IT department and the cloud initiative. From a regulatory perspective, it could lead to non-compliance if the automation introduces vulnerabilities or fails to meet data handling requirements. Another incorrect approach is to defer all automation efforts until a perfect, all-encompassing solution can be designed and implemented. This ignores the iterative nature of cloud adoption and the principle of delivering value incrementally. It can lead to stagnation, missed opportunities, and a perception of IT as a bottleneck rather than an enabler. This approach fails to address the immediate business needs and can be seen as a lack of responsiveness, which is a failure in professional service delivery. A third incorrect approach is to proceed with automation based solely on the most vocal stakeholders' demands, without a thorough assessment of technical feasibility, broader business impact, or alignment with the overall cloud strategy. This can lead to siloed solutions that are difficult to integrate, create technical debt, and may not deliver the most strategic value. It represents a failure to exercise professional judgment and to act in the best interest of the organization as a whole, potentially leading to wasted resources and a fragmented automation landscape. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with a clear understanding of business objectives and stakeholder needs. This should be followed by a thorough technical assessment of current capabilities and potential solutions. A risk-based approach, prioritizing initiatives that offer a balance of business value and technical feasibility, is crucial. The adoption of agile methodologies, including phased rollouts and iterative feedback loops, allows for continuous adaptation and risk mitigation. This ensures that solutions are not only technically sound, but also aligned with evolving business requirements and deliver demonstrable value, fostering trust and collaboration among stakeholders. Question 17. The assessment process reveals that a key stakeholder is pushing for the expedited deployment of a new automated cloud management solution, emphasizing speed to market over detailed security and compliance validation. The design team has identified several potential automation workflows that could significantly improve operational efficiency, but also carry inherent security risks if not properly configured and monitored. The stakeholder has suggested deferring a comprehensive security and compliance review until after the initial deployment to meet aggressive timelines. Which approach best addresses this situation while adhering to professional design principles and the implicit requirements of a secure and compliant cloud environment? Option A. Proceed with the expedited deployment as requested by the stakeholder, documenting the deferred security and compliance review as a known risk to be addressed in a subsequent phase. Option B. Focus solely on the functional aspects of the automation, assuming that standard VMware security defaults will be sufficient, and address any security or compliance concerns that arise during operational use. Option C. Implement the automation workflows with basic security configurations and inform the stakeholder that a full security and compliance review will be conducted post-deployment, with the understanding that remediation may be necessary. Option D. Conduct a risk-based security and compliance assessment of the proposed automation workflows, prioritizing critical controls and regulatory requirements, and integrate these findings into the initial design and deployment plan, even if it requires a slight adjustment to the timeline. The correct answer is A. Proceed with the expedited deployment as requested by the stakeholder, documenting the deferred security and compliance review as a known risk to be addressed in a subsequent phase. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a common challenge in cloud management and automation design, balancing the immediate need for rapid deployment with the long-term implications of security and compliance. In this scenario, the stakeholders' pressure to accelerate delivery introduces a risk of overlooking critical security controls and regulatory adherence, which are paramount in any cloud environment, especially when dealing with sensitive data or regulated industries. The professional challenge lies in navigating these competing priorities while ensuring the design solution is not only functional and efficient, but also secure and compliant with relevant VMware best practices and potentially industry-specific regulations that might be implied by the context of a VMware Certified Advanced Professional Exam, even if not explicitly stated as a specific jurisdiction's laws. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough security and compliance review as an integral part of the design process, not an afterthought. This aligns with the principle of security by design and compliance by design, which are fundamental to robust cloud architecture. By embedding these considerations from the outset, the design team can proactively identify and mitigate risks, ensuring the solution meets all necessary security standards and regulatory requirements. This proactive stance prevents costly rework, potential breaches, and regulatory penalties, ultimately leading to a more stable and trustworthy cloud environment. An incorrect approach that bypasses or significantly shortens the security and compliance review phase is professionally unacceptable. This failure constitutes a direct violation of responsible design principles. It creates significant regulatory and ethical risks. For instance, if the designed automation workflows inadvertently expose sensitive data due to inadequate access controls or logging, it could lead to breaches of data privacy regulations e.g. GDPR if applicable, or similar principles within VMware's own security frameworks. Similarly, neglecting to incorporate compliance checks into automated deployments could result in non-compliance with industry standards or internal governance policies, leading to audit failures and reputational damage. The ethical failure lies in knowingly or negligently exposing the organization to undue risk. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured risk assessment framework. This framework should explicitly include security and compliance as core evaluation criteria, alongside functionality and performance. When faced with stakeholder pressure for speed, professionals must clearly articulate the risks associated with compromising these critical areas. This involves quantifying potential impacts where possible, e.g., cost of a breach, fines for noncompliance, and presenting them to stakeholders. The decision should always be to adhere to established security and compliance protocols, potentially by adjusting timelines or resource allocation, rather than cutting corners. Effective communication and stakeholder management are key to ensuring that the importance of these non-negotiable aspects of cloud design is understood and respected. Question 18. Regulatory review indicates that the proposed cloud management and automation solution must strictly adhere to data residency laws requiring all sensitive customer data processed by the automation platform to remain within the European Union. The chosen automation platform offers global deployment options and a wide range of integration capabilities. Which design approach best ensures compliance with this specific regulatory mandate? Option A. Design the solution to leverage the automation platform's global deployment capabilities, ensuring that all data processing instances and storage are explicitly configured to reside within EU-based regions, and implement strict access controls to prevent data egress. Option B. Plan to address data residency concerns during the implementation phase by applying region-specific policies after the initial deployment of the automation platform. Option C. Assume that the automation platform's standard security configurations will inherently protect EU data and focus primarily on the platform's automation efficiency and integration features. Option D. Utilize the automation platform's broad integration capabilities to connect with external services that may process data outside the EU, with the understanding that data anonymization will be applied downstream. The correct answer is A. Design the solution to leverage the automation platform's global deployment capabilities, ensuring that all data processing instances and storage are explicitly configured to reside within EU-based regions, and implement strict access controls to prevent data egress. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge in designing a cloud management and automation solution that must adhere to specific, albeit hypothetical for this exam's context, regulatory requirements for data residency and processing. The core difficulty lies in balancing the technical capabilities of a chosen automation platform with the stringent legal and compliance obligations. A misstep can lead to significant legal repercussions, financial penalties, and reputational damage. The need for careful judgment arises from the potential for misinterpreting or overlooking nuances in the regulatory framework, which could lead to a non-compliant design. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding of the specified regulatory framework's requirements regarding data residency and processing. This necessitates a detailed analysis of the chosen automation platform's capabilities to ensure it can enforce these requirements. For instance, if the regulation mandates that all sensitive customer data processed by the automation platform must reside within a specific geographic boundary. The design must incorporate mechanisms to restrict data storage and processing to approved regions. This might involve configuring the platform's deployment, utilizing region-specific service endpoints, or implementing data masking and anonymization techniques where data must traverse boundaries. This approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes compliance from the outset, integrating regulatory adherence into the core design, rather than attempting to retrofit it later. It demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to operating within legal boundaries, which is paramount in any professional engagement involving sensitive data and regulated environments. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach would be to prioritize the automation platform's perceived efficiency or ease of deployment without a comprehensive assessment of its compliance capabilities against the regulatory framework. This could lead to a design that, while technically sound from an automation perspective, fails to meet data residency mandates. The regulatory or ethical failure here is a direct violation of the specified compliance obligations, potentially exposing the organization to legal penalties and data privacy breaches. Another incorrect approach would be to assume that standard cloud provider security features are sufficient to meet the specific data residency requirements. While general security is important, specific regulations often have granular requirements that go beyond basic security controls. Relying solely on generic security measures without verifying their alignment with the precise data residency and processing rules would be a significant oversight, leading to non-compliance. The failure is in the lack of specific due diligence to confirm that the chosen controls directly address the regulatory mandates. A third incorrect approach would be to defer the compliance assessment to a later stage, such as during the implementation or operational phases. This fix-it-later mentality is professionally unsound. Regulatory compliance is a design constraint that must be addressed during the architectural phase. Delaying this consideration increases the risk of costly redesigns, project delays, and the potential for an unresolvable compliance gap. The ethical failure lies in not proactively identifying and mitigating risks, thereby jeopardizing the project's success and the organization's legal standing. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves 1. Understanding the regulatory landscape. Thoroughly research and interpret all applicable laws, regulations, and guidelines relevant to the project's jurisdiction. 2. Identifying compliance requirements. Translate regulatory mandates into specific, actionable technical and operational requirements for the cloud management and automation solution. 3. Assessing platform capabilities. Evaluate the chosen automation platform's features and functionalities against these compliance requirements. This includes understanding its data handling, storage, and processing capabilities. 4. Designing for compliance. Integrate compliance controls directly into the solution's architecture and design. This should be a primary consideration, not an afterthought. 5. Validation and verification. Establish processes to continuously validate that the implemented solution remains compliant throughout its lifecycle. Question 19. The audit findings indicate that the design team for a new cloud management and automation platform prioritized the selection of a particular automation tool based primarily on its perceived ease of integration with existing infrastructure and its competitive initial licensing cost, with less emphasis placed on a comprehensive evaluation of its security posture and long-term operational support model. Which of the following decision-making approaches best aligns with professional best practices for designing such a solution? Option A. A decision based on the automation tool that offers the most extensive feature set, assuming that a wider range of functionalities will inherently provide greater value and flexibility for future automation needs. Option B. A structured evaluation process that includes a detailed risk assessment, a comparative analysis of security features, compliance certifications, scalability, total cost of ownership, and vendor support for all viable automation options, leading to a selection based on a balanced consideration of all critical factors. Option C. A choice favoring the automation tool with the lowest upfront licensing cost, with the expectation that any necessary security or operational enhancements can be addressed through post-implementation customizations. Option D. A selection driven by the automation tool recommended by the majority of the engineering team during informal discussions, prioritizing team consensus over formal evaluation criteria. The correct answer is B. A structured evaluation process that includes a detailed risk assessment, a comparative analysis of security features, compliance certifications, scalability, total cost of ownership, and vendor support for all viable automation options, leading to a selection based on a balanced consideration of all critical factors. Explanation: the audit findings indicate a potential deviation from established best practices in the design of a cloud management and automation solution, specifically concerning the decision-making framework for selecting appropriate automation tools and services. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing technical feasibility, cost-effectiveness, security implications, and adherence to organizational policies and regulatory compliance, all within the context of a rapidly evolving cloud landscape. The pressure to deliver a solution quickly can lead to shortcuts in the decision-making process, potentially compromising the long-term viability and security of the deployed environment. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it mandates a structured, evidence-based decision-making framework that prioritizes a thorough assessment of requirements, risks, and available options. This aligns with the principles of responsible design and implementation, ensuring that the chosen automation solutions are not only functional, but also secure, compliant, and sustainable. By systematically evaluating each option against predefined criteria, including security controls, operational efficiency, and integration capabilities, the design team can make an informed decision that minimizes technical debt and regulatory exposure. This methodical approach is crucial for demonstrating due diligence and accountability in a professional capacity. An incorrect approach that relies solely on the perceived ease of integration or the lowest initial cost fails to consider the broader implications. This could lead to significant security vulnerabilities if the chosen tool lacks robust access controls or data protection features, potentially violating data privacy regulations. Furthermore, a focus on short-term cost savings without evaluating long-term operational expenses, scalability, or vendor support can result in higher total cost of ownership and hinder future innovation, which is a failure in prudent financial and strategic management. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes features over security and compliance requirements is also professionally unacceptable. This can lead to the deployment of solutions that do not meet industry standards or regulatory mandates, exposing the organization to legal penalties and reputational damage. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that includes clearly defining project objectives and constraints, identifying and evaluating all viable automation options, establishing a weighted scoring mechanism based on critical criteria such as security, compliance, scalability, cost, and operational impact, conducting proof-of-concept testing for shortlisted options, and documenting the entire decision-making process, including the rationale for the final selection. This structured approach ensures that decisions are objective, defensible, and aligned with organizational goals and regulatory obligations. Question 20. Market research demonstrates a growing demand for advanced cloud automation capabilities to improve operational efficiency and accelerate service delivery. Your organization is considering adopting a new VMware vRealize automation solution to manage its hybrid cloud environment. A senior engineer, highly experienced with a particular vendor's automation tools, strongly advocates for a specific, cutting-edge feature set that promises significant immediate performance gains, but this solution has not undergone a formal comparative analysis against other market offerings or a thorough assessment of its integration with existing security protocols. Which of the following approaches best aligns with professional best practices for selecting and implementing such a critical cloud management and automation solution? Option A. Select the solution with the most innovative and technically advanced features, as demonstrated by the senior engineer's recommendation, to ensure the organization remains at the forefront of cloud automation technology, even if it requires significant customization. Option B. Initiate a comprehensive evaluation process that includes defining clear technical and business requirements, assessing multiple vendor solutions against these requirements, conducting a total cost of ownership analysis, and engaging security and compliance teams for a thorough risk assessment before making a final decision. Option C. Proceed with the implementation of the solution favored by the senior engineer, leveraging their expertise to quickly deploy the advanced features, assuming their technical judgment will lead to the most efficient outcome. Option D. Prioritize the solution that offers the lowest upfront licensing cost as this will demonstrate immediate financial prudence and allow for faster deployment, with the understanding that future optimizations can be addressed later. Correct answer is B. Initiate a comprehensive evaluation process that includes defining clear technical and business requirements, assessing multiple vendor solutions against these requirements, conducting a total cost of ownership analysis, and engaging security and compliance teams for a thorough risk assessment before making a final decision. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between rapid innovation in cloud automation and the need for robust, auditable decision-making processes. The organization is seeking to leverage advanced VMware technologies for competitive advantage, but without a structured approach, the selection of solutions could be driven by subjective preferences or short-term gains, leading to technical debt, security vulnerabilities, or non-compliance with internal governance policies. Careful judgment is required to balance agility with strategic alignment and risk management. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic, evidence-based decision-making framework. This aligns with principles of good governance and responsible technology adoption. By establishing clear criteria, involving relevant stakeholders, and conducting thorough evaluations, the organization ensures that the chosen automation solutions are not only technically sound, but also strategically aligned with business objectives, cost-effective in the long run, and compliant with any applicable internal or external regulatory requirements. This proactive stance minimizes the risk of costly rework or compliance issues later. An incorrect approach that relies solely on the perceived technical superiority of a single vendor without a broader evaluation fails to consider the total cost of ownership, integration challenges with existing infrastructure, or the vendor's long-term support and roadmap. This can lead to vendor lock-in and a lack of flexibility. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate cost savings over long-term operational efficiency and scalability overlooks the potential for higher operational expenditures and reduced agility in the future. This is a failure in strategic financial planning and risk assessment. A third incorrect approach that bypasses established IT governance and security review processes introduces significant risks of introducing insecure solutions, violating data privacy regulations, or creating shadow IT, all of which carry substantial ethical and potential legal ramifications. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that includes clearly defining the problem and objectives, identifying and evaluating potential solutions against predefined criteria, technical, financial, operational, security, compliance, engaging cross-functional stakeholders for input and buy-in, conducting pilot programs or proof of concepts where appropriate, and documenting the decision-making process and rationale for future reference and auditability.